I have never even thought about having a moment with a strange horse before. I was trying to help him because he was shivering in the cold outside my house on a stormy Christmas Eve night. First, let me describe myself. My name is Sarah, and I suppose if you saw me you might not think much of me. A woman in her early 30s with a tired but kind face, a body softened by time, and 2 children. I've always taken pride in my hard glass shape, boasting measurements of 38 in at bust, 28 in at the waist, and 40 in at hips. My curves reflect the journey I've experienced and the life I've wholeheartedly embraced. My husband David is a truck driver. He's the kind of man who works tirelessly crossing miles of endless highways to provide for us. His hands calloused and worn tell the story of long days and nights spent behind the wheel, gripping the steering wheel as he delivers goods to places I'll likely never see. David isn't perfect, but he is dependable. He loves me in his quiet, steadfast way, and though our relationship has had its ups and downs, I never doubted his loyalty. But being the wife of a truck driver is lonely. David's job often keeps him away for days, sometimes weeks. I've grown accustomed to empty evenings, to watching the clock tick by as I sit in our small living room, bathed in the soft glow of Christmas lights. This year, he had to leave again, even on Christmas Eve. It's just one more delivery, he said, kissing on the forehead before he left. I'll be home in time for Christmas dinner. That night the wind howled outside and the snowstorm raged with a ferocity I hadn't seen in years. The old windows rattled in their frames, and the cold crept into the house. Despite the roaring fire I'd built, I curled up with a blanket, staring out at the swirling white chaos beyond. On the glass I felt the ache of solitude settle deep in my chest, and then I saw it, a dark figure moving through the snow. At first it thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but as I squinted the shape grew clearer. A horse, its body trembling in the bitter cold, its mane and tail whipping in the wind. My heart clenched. It was alone, struggling just like me. I couldn't leave it out there. I grabbed my coat and boots, throwing them on hastily, and stepped out into the freezing night. The snow stung my skin, the icy wind biting at my cheeks. As I approached the horse, it didn't resist. When I reached for it, its eyes wide and pleading, its body shivering violently. It's okay, I murmured, letting it toward the house. You're safe now. Once inside, I dried the horse off as best I could and made a space for it in the garage. I brought it some water and the closest thing I had to food for it, an old bag of apples from the pantry. I worked. I found myself talking to it, spilling out thoughts I hadn't voiced in years. I told the horse about David, about our life together, about loneliness. I told it about the nights I'd spent staring at my phone waiting for a message that never came. I told it about the silences that had grown between us, silences I'd filled with doubts and fears I'd never dared to share. The horse stood there listening, its dark eyes unwavering as though it understood every word. And as the night wore on, something shifted within me. But then I made a mistake, a terrible, irreversible mistake. I thought if I his with the horse it wouldn't be considered cheating. I didn't expect it. Nuzzled closer, his warm breath brushing against my hand. At first it felt innocent, comforting, but then he began to press himself closer, his massive paws reaching up to rest gently against my chest, as if he were trying to hug me. Hey, what are you doing? I whispered, laughing nervously, trying to brush off the oddness of the moment. Both persisted, his large wet nose brushing against my cheek. He licked me, his tongue tracing the curve of my jaw. My heart raced, and I don't know why it was feeling good, but I tried to move back. But he was so big, so insistent. His affection turned intense, and when he began to lick my bare feet, I froze. It felt strange, uncomfortable, but there was something in his eyes that stopped me from reacting right away. It was as if he could sense my loneliness, my longing for connection. Now assume I am alone in my house with a strange horse, and when it bent to pick apples to feed him, then it hit me with a sloppy wet tongue right again. I was startled at the touch and jumped up with a shock, shouting, oh my God, what? Turning around, there was a strange horse standing there with his tail slapping the loneliness in the house. You know how they are, with a silly look on his face, and his head tipped to one side, as if to say, I like that. Can I have some more, please? I turned to him and sternly said, you can keep your nose out of there, you pervert. Then he came over to me and started hitting me from the back. It was too painful, but only I know how much I enjoyed it. After 15 minutes of pure, he filled me with his gum, leaving me overthinking. In my desperation for connection, for warmth, I let my boundaries dissolve. I let the night's strange magic clouded my judgment, and in that moment I betrayed the man who had given me everything. It wasn't just an act of weakness, it was a moment of surrender to a part of myself I didn't want to acknowledge, a part that yearned for something more, something I couldn't even name. The next morning the storm had passed, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden glow over the snow-covered world. David returned home, but smiling, ready to celebrate Christmas with me. As he walked through the door, his face lit up in surprise. What's tea? She asked, staring at the horse now resting peacefully in the garage. I forced a smile, my heart pounding in my chest. It's your Christmas gift, I said, my voice trembling ever so slightly. David laughed, pulling me into a hug. You didn't have to go all out like this, he said, his gratitude shining in his eyes. I clung to him, guilt gnawing at me like a relentless tide. He didn't know the truth, and I prayed he never would. But as the days went on, the weight off what I'd done didn't lessen, it grew heavier, the regret coiling tighter around my Heart, every time I looked at him I saw the trust in his eyes, a trust I no longer deserved. Even now as I sit here writing this I can't shake the image of that horse, its dark eyes staring back at me as if it knew everything I've hidden. My betrayal buried it deep within me, but the guilt is a wound that won't heal. David deserves better, he deserves the truth, but I'm not brave enough to give it to him, not yet. Sometimes late at night I find myself wandering to the garage where the horse still resides. It's become a part of our lives now, a silent witness to my secret. I stroke its man, whispering apologies it can't understand, seeking solace in its quiet presence. It's strange how something so innocent can become a symbol of something so tainted, and yet I can't bring myself to let it go. Perhaps I'm holding on to it as a penance, a reminder of the line I crossed, or perhaps deep down I'm hoping it will somehow make things right. But deep down I know the truth, the only thing that can make this right is the only thing I'm too afraid to do. For now I'll carry this burden alone, hoping that one day I'll find the courage to face what I've done. Until then I'll keep pretending, keep smiling, keep hiding the cracks in my heart, and I'll keep writing, pouring my guilt onto these pages, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'll hold the answers I can't seem to find.